essentially doing is you're burning the candle at both ends, and it's the case of whatever happens, I'm going to get to have a go at this manager. What was your view being on with him, Dan? Obviously, I know you obviously know more. You were there for the whole thing in the context, but is that one of the strangest sort of Arteta stroke Arsenal takes you've ever heard?
You're on mute, by the way.
I'll unmute him. It's fine. Go on, mate. Go on, it's done.
Terry, I think what you were saying, what you was just about to say, what you just said is that you would have to get worse. That's what I said to him. I said, Yardman, listen. In order for us to win that Europa League that you want for some reason, God knows why, we would have to get worse. I said, so if you want us, he's talking about Chelsea having the conference, the Europa League and the Champions League. He was like, they're the best ever in Europe. He was saying they're the kings of Europe. But Real Madrid are the kings of Europe. Real Madrid do not care about the Conference Cup and they do not care about the Europa League, right? So I said to him, so you want Arsenal to get worse. So this season finish 6th, then and hopefully win the Europa League. The season after that finish 7th or 8th, so then we can go and win the Conference Cup. The conference, rather than winning the Premier League. He said he'd rather a Europa League than a Premier League. Now, for me, that he's an anomaly. There we go. Thank you, Staffy. He's the only Arsenal
English
fan.
Guy here, by the way.
Yeah, I think he's the only Arsenal fan in the world, I think, who thinks like that. Then maybe if there is anyone else, please come out. And it does come down to Arteta, because like you said again, Terry, it's not going to end if Arteta delivers the Premier League or the Champions League this year. Because I've spoken to people and I've said, look, okay, they always ask me, the question always is, if he doesn't win anything, does he have to go? So I turn it around and say, okay, what if he does win the Premier League? What if he wins the Premier League and the Champions League double? They say, I'll give him another year.
Another year?
Another year. Then they say, I said, is there any way you could change your mind? And they said, it was another Arsenal content creator. He said, if in 5 years he won like 3 in a row and a couple of Champions Leagues, then maybe I'd have to start to give him a chance. I'm thinking, hold on a minute. Exactly. This is what I'm saying. Like, obviously, it's all hypothetical, but they just have a problem. And I think a lot to do with it is him being a rookie manager, coming through, getting the job. You know, obviously Wenger wasn't backed. Arteta has been backed. But the strange thing is, you get a lot of these older fans that used to tell me at the end of Wenger's tenure that they missed the days of George Graham, where it was just about winning. You know, George Graham, they liked George Graham more than Arsene Wenger. I got it. That's their era. Wenger was my era. I grew up like, you know, when you're a kid and you grow to an adult and all of that. And they all say they prefer George Graham. And now I hear them slagging off doing things that Arteta does that he's got from the George Graham book. Literally.
Yeah, it's very. Listen, I think what Staffy just said is spot on. And look, I'd love to speak to Yardman. There's no pile on. There's no horrible words. I'm not judging him as a man. I'm not judging him as a person. I'm just talking purely about his view of football. I just think if Arteta this year was to win a Premier League and Champions League double, for a club your size and where you've been at, that's statue levels. To go, you get one more year, and if you don't repeat it or you don't win a major trophy, you must go and somebody else comes in. There may be another manager in the world that's available, attainable and good enough to then get you back to winning. But wouldn't it also depend on what happens? What if the next year you missed out on the league title by a point and lost narrowly a Champions League final, but you're still one of the best teams in the world, the team was still playing well? It would make almost no sense, because you also now know what the argument that was always given by Arteta out as was, I don't care how close we come, I don't think he could ever get us over the line. But then if he proves he can get you over the line, it goes against your original argument, which was, I don't care how close we come, he might not get us over. Well, you know he can get over now. And as long as you're playing well, there may not be the necessary need to get rid of him. And look, maybe so, yeah, it does feel a little bit much for me, but I'm not overly surprised. And Arteta out is a conversation, but I think a lot of fan bases are like this. I do think what Staffy said is so close to the truth. Some individuals have an opinion. They want to be proven right. And I just think some people will continue to kick the can down the road until the end of time. And how do I know this? Cristiano Ronaldo gets it. He'll be 40. He's 40 years old, turning 41. He can't do things now that he could do at 21. And I literally still see people go, I've been telling it his whole career, he ain't good at doing X. I'm like, bro, he's 41. You've waited like 24 years to be able to say he can't do that anymore. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens with Mikel Arteta. I think he could become your greatest ever manager, and there'd be a subsection of Arsenal fans that would try and find a way to, but look how much money he got to spend, and if Wenger had this, but look if this, look if that. I just think they've made their minds up, and because it's public as well, I think some people, there is this element of, I can never let go. My concern for them, just a friendly concern, is, are you actually enjoying your football club anymore if you're so engrossed in it?
That way, fandom is the worst way to watch sports.
Exactly.
Oh my
Terry,
goodness. If you watch sports that way, just retire. It's not for you. Go ahead, Dan. Go ahead.
Like, I had to make a video on it because of those Arsenal fans, right? We were top of the league by 6 points at this point and joint top of the Champions League. And instead of talking about the next game against Sunderland, how we were going to line up, whether we can win the league, or who our challenges were, or what tactics we're going to go in, there was none of that. It was how bad Arteta has been ruining our players, how bad we keep getting bad injuries, just all because of Arteta. It was just, all of it was negative. And look, David is the perfect example. He's starting to become positive. You joked earlier in this stream and called him Positive David, because Positive Dan was a name given to me because I was positive. I was only positive because my team, I feel like, are on the cusp of greatness. We're fighting for titles. We're going deep in the Champions League. And we're doing, in my lifetime as an adult, since I've been to the Emirates, we've never been this good. I was a kid, 14 years old, when we last won the Premier League. So for me, that's the reason why I'm positive. So like David is starting to become positive now because his team's doing better.
Until we can see the goal, and then he becomes negative. Exactly. Do you know what I would love to ask Yardman, and this is kind of why I'm featuring this, because I'd love to speak to him about this, because I love fan content, I love fan opinion. It's what I do, and I'm intrigued by it. But I want to know when he developed the standard, and I tell you as to why. Because I hear this a lot from Arsenal. There's standard FC at every club, but the Arsenal fans that push it, the one thought that comes into my mind is, I often hear them talk about standards and levels that they've never achieved. So what I'm intrigued to know is, how are you attracted to a club that never, ever had been anywhere near the standards that your mind perceives as the right way to behave as a football club? So maybe you didn't have the standards when you picked them, which is fair, but what changed? What made you think that way? And I suppose my question also is, what made you love Arsenal if they never had the standard that you look for? Because if, for instance, the way Real Madrid behave on every level, you look at it and go, fucking love that, then why are you not a Madrid fan? Because it's the way they behave. If you like the way Burnley behave as a football club, their fans, their owners, the way they operate, maybe that should be your team. Maybe that's who you're in love with. Maybe we've got a situation here where some people, and maybe we've got to rewrite fan rules. Maybe a few people were forced into a few marriages with clubs they didn't want to be in. And their whole life, their dad made them an Arsenal fan, so they've got to stay one. But actually, their whole life, they love Crystal Palace, but they're not allowed to support them. Maybe we should create like an amnesty to go, do you just want to leave and support a different club? Maybe you're not really in love. And that's a little bit of a joke in there. But there's this element, I look at it and go, I hear Man United fans that do this. Streamers that are like, not a big fan of Fergie and his tactics, hate the class of 92, don't really rate Rooney, not big fans of Cristiano Ronaldo, hate hearing about the academy and DNA, no, fuck all about Busby and the Babes. And I sit there and go, hang on, the fuck reason you support us then? You go to, name me your top 50 players ever. There might be one United player on there. I'm like, hang on, what's going on? I've never known any, I'd listen to it and I go, I just don't think you picked United for any other reason. When were you born? Oh, 1995. Okay. Now I think I know why you picked them, because they were winning everything. And I know I'll get accused of that because of my age and being from London, but I love my football club. I love our history. I won't have a bad word said about Sir Alex Ferguson. I hear United fans, it's almost like there's nothing about the club they love, but they support it. That's what I'm confused by in the modern day fan space. It's kind of interesting to me.
For me, it's also like, how many clubs can say that a former player has come and made your team good? Like, if you look at most former players who come to manage their clubs, they don't really do well, or they only get so far. If he wins the Premier League with Arsenal, that is a story that most football fans would say that's what they would want. They'd want it to be a former player that wins us the league. They'd want it to be like an academy father like Saka or Ranieri, or someone being one of the main players in the team and winning us the league. Like, all the things you would want in a football dream of winning, Arsenal are on the cusp of potentially having, and they're angry about it. I don't. For me, then I'm questioning, why do you like football? Like, why do you even like the sport? Like,
but that's what I already said,
like
KJ.
Sport, then what's the point?
It's more of obsession of people always want to be right. I'll tell you this. I really got disappointed when United went on these 4 games in a row where we won 3 and drew 1, and people spent a lot more time arguing about the manager rather than what happened during the games. Because you know me, no matter what my opinion is, you guys know me. I love to talk about tactics. People might call me a tactico, whatever it is. I just like to talk about the game. I found us more talking about the manager rather than the performances, and it pissed me off. And this is what happens to I thought I said on my stream, I was like, I feel like we're Arsenal of like 2019, 2020, when all you guys talked about every day was Arteta out. To make it worse, you guys still do that, but you guys have been competing for the league for the majority of the last 3 to 4 years. And every time I see an Arsenal clip from whatever channel, I still can't believe that every time I tune in, all I hear is Arteta in, Arteta out. You guys have been one of the most consistent teams. Fair enough. We make fun of you guys for finishing second, don't get me wrong, and not picking up any trophies. But like, if you ask me, banter aside, who's been one of the better teams over the last 3 years? I'd say without those trophies, you've still been one of the most consistent teams because you keep getting close to winning the trophy. The fact that every time I see a clip or I tune into a stream, and that's why I can't watch Arsenal content no more. I'm saying it right now. There's not a single Arsenal content creator that I watch, because every time I tune into a panel, it's all Arteta out, Arteta in, Arteta out, Arteta in. Wallahi, if we are in a title race, I promise you, I'd be the most unbearable person on YouTube, because I'd be sitting here talking about how great our team is. Even if bro, I'll put my balls on the line and we still won't win it, but I'll still, along the way, all I'm going to be talking about is how good I think my team is.
You would be me, Staffy. You'd be the Man United version of me.
But this is also why, though, Staffy.
I just want to do the cringe celebration.
I made a real big point when we won those 3 games on the bounce. I said it on the show because I could see it in the comments, and I said, guys, I'm not going to be challenging, for instance, David. I am not going to be asking anybody if you changed your mind about Amorim yet, because it's not a talking point for the game. Equally, when we drew the 4th game, I didn't go, right, guys, are we doing Amorim out or in or out today? I think I got someone asking me this the other day about content in general. They were like, do you feel like algorithms bad? Do you feel like views are down? I said, I think one of the reasons views are down for a lot of people is because they're bored of the same fucking conversations every day. You don't need to have an Amorim out, Amorim in, Amorim out conversation every day. You don't need to have an Arteta in or Arteta out conversation every day. You can speak about a game in isolation to that match. And I actually felt 2 of the best match reactions we've done on the Terrace in years was the Arsenal game against Sunderland and was the Liverpool City game. Because at not one point, and in Liverpool's match, it could have happened with Slot, it was 95% about the match and the incidents. And I think we have to get back to sometimes just having micro conversations about something a journalist has said, or about a breaking news story, or about a transfer story, or, for instance, United are close to getting Belieber. We could just talk about Belieber, how good a player he is, what he could do for the team, rather than, but I still want the manager out. It's like, okay, it's not for now. And I think that there's so much of that going on in the content space. Forget your clubs. It makes it hard to have footballing conversations, and that's why we're all here. And I do agree. This here from Garrett says these are the Teta outers ruining our club. They are going to push out the person most responsible for us even being in the title race. Genuinely, fuck this type of fan. They'll laugh if he leaves and wins at City or Barca. They won't. Well, yeah, I hear you.
I would like to ask Yardman.
I'm grateful.
Is whose 3 years would you have? Man United's last 3 years, which is 2 trophies, but that's 3rd, 8th, and then 15th. And you lose 2. You remember we lose 2 finals in that period as well. Or Arsenal's 3 years of finishing second 3 years in a row.
So you know what the answer is going to be, KJ, and it's hypocritical anyways. They're going to say ours because we won the cups, but I'll tell you what, and Terry actually said it on Troops' stream. I caught that bit. He said, but you guys were winning FA Cups when you were going to games saying Arsene Wenger out. You didn't go all these years just to say if we win the FA Cups with Arteta,
Yeah,
we would be
and
Arteta
what
out.
were they doing
It's a
in the
lie.
summer?
Yeah.
They were bantering us in the summer. Everyone was
And
They were
bantering Man
finishing
United.
fourth every
exactly.
year.
No one said, "Oh,
They
but
would make
wait,
Champions
guys."
League every year,
and
finishing
that's
fourth, and they
that's
still
why
wanted
that's why I
Wenger out.
want to know. That's why I want to know where the standards have come from, because
It's all
the
an act,
same
Terry. It's all
the
an act.
standards I hear being pushed now were not the same things being said. And people can change their views, and that's fine. But what I want to understand and question, not to say you're wrong, I want to dig a bit to when did you start thinking and feeling this way? When did you start believing these things? Because I can tell you when I changed my mind about things. Terry used to say Wenger, Arteta out. Yeah, the first couple of years, I did not see for the life of me him turning you into a competitive team because of all the losses and defeats. But what I didn't know about Arsenal, because I'm not an Arsenal fan, is all the work going on behind the scenes. And then going into, I think it was his second full season, you started seeing the improvements. I then started doing what I was advised to do by a gal, actually. Reading more, read this blog, read this person, listen to this podcast. And then I educated myself more on Arsenal and went, hang on, maybe I can see a little something here that I didn't know before. I can pinpoint when I started to change my mind and why. Then the results started changing. Then I saw them in the summer of 2022 and fucking hell, they've turned it round. Well, the one thing I find interesting about Standards FC people at all clubs is they get very annoyed when you ask them when they started thinking this way, which feeds into the potential. I'm not making an accusation, but it feeds into the potential that it's performative. And in terms of what we do, in terms of having conversations about football, I just want to dig into it a little bit more because I'm so intrigued by the mindset. I don't even think it's necessary. It's wrong in the sense of I don't feel that way. If you want to support your club in that way, more power to you. I'm not saying you shouldn't have a YouTube channel. I'm not saying you shouldn't be allowed to say it. So let me just preface that for all the toaster people. But I want to learn about it more because I am so intrigued by how and why people think and feel that way.
Terry, I can tell you when it started though. There was that season you said, the season you realised that he was a good manager and we'd switch things up 2022-23 when we were 8 points ahead, but City had a game in hand and we still had to play them twice, by the way. Everyone likes to say we were 8 points ahead. Anyway, with the youngest team in the Premier League, once we didn't win that title, and obviously the media called it bottling and all of that, that was it. The next season, even when we were in the title race, our own fans were going, we're not going to do it, we're not going to do it, we're not going to do it. And in the end, they were right. We didn't do it. But that is when it changed. Because Dan, who I share my show with, I met him. And the reason why we started doing our channel was because we used to argue all the time about Arteta. And I said, wait, so did you not back him? Like, when did you ever back him? Because we met the season 23-24 season. So I said to him, did you ever back him? He said, of course I did. Last year I was right behind him. I was singing Mikel Arteta songs. I said, what changed? He said, well, he didn't get us over the line.